Death Club.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Danny here, and today I'm talking to you about Build King. So Build King was in Weekly Shonen Jump, written and drawn by the boy Mitsutobi Shimabukuro. This is the same guy that did Toriko. I'm a big fan of Toriko. Fantastic shonen series. Highly recommend checking that one out. And this is his latest work. It started in November of 2020 and sadly ended this month of April 2021 with a whopping total of 20 chapters. So right off the bat, automatically we know this series got canceled, and as far as my knowledge comes with mangas being canceled in Jump, they give you 10 chapters to wrap everything up. That really sucks because that just means 10 chapters in, they axe this series. So let's get into this series and see why it got canceled. This stars our two main characters, Tonkachi and Renga, and these are two young boys that live on an island filled with monsters. They were left behind by their master to basically live there and train to become master carpenters so that way they could enter the real world. And both of their goals are to build these structures called Build Kings. Basically the wonders of the world. These incredible buildings that are only told in legend, that have mysterious attributes to them, and a bunch of other shonen stuff going on there. And with these two characters, we see the two sides of them. Tonkachi being the main lead, as he's more the main focus. He is the energetic shonen character here, who's all muscles, and right off the bat we can see he's not the best carpenter, but he's super strong and can actually fight with one of the tools he has that is a hammer that can extend. And then we see with Renga, the other main character, he is the one who has been honing his skills the whole time, and is the more calm, collected supporting cast here. And that's pretty much the main premise of the story here. These two characters venturing out into the world, learning more techniques to become master carpenters, to eventually meet their master again, and have their dreams of building a Build King. And mainly Tonkachi's side is he wants to be a Build King, but also he wants to build peace in the world. And that is one of the most shonen dialogues you could probably hear when it comes to a main character. So I actually started reading this when it debuted back in November over on the Manga Plus app. And the first initial thought I had was for the artwork. And I think Shimabukuro does a great job at drawing designs for characters and monsters and all of the strong stuff that he had in Toriko. It is brought here, except for Tonkachi. His design reminded me of super old school manga, like Astro Boy era. And I think that also plays into a part of what this story kind of is. It's very simplistic, minimal ideals, something to really grasp the younger kids. And also his artwork does kind of look like more towards comedic stuff, which there's a lot of comedy in here. So with his younger looking design with big expressive faces, it's clear the target audience is probably the younger side of Jump readers, but then we're going to be getting the combat and all of that to also grab in the older audience, which are probably around, 15 to 17 year olds. And the best way I could really put the way this world is built is this is just the architecture version of Toriko. In the world of Toriko, everyone was so fixated on food. That was the ideology across the world. And here it's the same. Everything is so focused on carpenters and them building stuff. That's the main idea. And I think that's a pretty cool way to shape your world. And especially with here, again, like I said, he's great with the designs and the things he can come up with. Abstract building, something you can only see in a world like this, I thought was really cool and clever. Along the way, we get some more supporting cast characters to come in. And they're fine as well. Very average, I guess you could say, when it comes to their roles that they need to fulfill. And then plus with a lot of comedy in there, it really just speaks out that they're the peg fitting the hole into the story. And especially with the comedic aspects coming in with their characters, they truly are filling the roles that they need to. It's very expected to have those kind of characters come in. Unfortunately, as things are slowly picking up, they rapidly end. And just when things started to build up and getting more exploration into the world, that's when we have to start getting the chapters to end the series. So it all happens very fast. And, we've read some manga here that have ended, that have been canceled. There are so many different ways to go about ending your series. And this one's probably the more common one. If we're going to end the series, let's do the final arc now. Like the idea that I wanted to get into. And it just all happened so fast. But at the same time, I can see it happening here. It's during basically the Hunter exams from Hunter x Hunter, right? They're doing these challenges to get their carpentry license. And that's when the main antagonists come in and infiltrate the tournament, halt it, and then we get to see all the carpentry masters use their techniques as we get more explanations of how this ability called Vigor is worked into everything that's around, and why Tonkachi as well as Renga are both special characters. It could have been interesting to go along, but I think what the series fails to do is to really capture the audience's attention for long periods of time. The concept of construction and all that is pretty cool. Throwing in the battle manga motif in here as well might have been too much. Shimabukuro could have really focused on the aspect of carpentry and all of that into this wild, crazy world. And every now and then you could throw in the shonen action. I mean, the best example right now in the same magazine is Dr. Stone. It's not heavy with the shonen battle motifs. Heck, it's barely even in there, but what really captures the audience is the excellent writing, all the characters, the situations that's going on, how intense the scenes can be when there's not even a whole lot of fighting going on. So if Build King would have focused more on that, I think it would have excelled. And it really is just unfortunate to see a series end so short, especially coming off of a huge hit like Toriko. And the comedy parts probably didn't help as well in keeping a lot of attention. I don't mind humor, but when it's gag humor, like early Hitman Reborn and the stuff we've seen here, I'm just not the biggest fan. We did get some of that in Toriko, but that wasn't the main purpose of the series. And with Jump offering more titles, doing similar stuff to Build King here, as far as like ideas, and they're doing it a lot better, it's just bad timing on this series' part. Now, let's talk about one of the most interesting things that happened with this series that I really hope does not pick up moving forward in the manga industry. I read the last chapter, go to the last page, ends on a cliffhanger, and says, hey, read the rest in the final volume when it goes on sale. That's wild to me that the ending of a series that gets canceled is not even out yet. And if you do want to see it, you have to buy the final volume. Never seen anything like this happen before. Sure, there have been series like Promised Neverland and recently announced Attack on Titan where they're adding more pages to the manga. But in those mangas, in those final chapters, the story's already over. Things have been established and fleshed out. They're just giving us more detail that might have been confusing or stuff they missed during the deadline. Whereas here with Build King, ending it on a cliffhanger and saying, oh, if you want to find out the rest, go buy the volume. Now, on one hand, if you're a fan, you're going to collect the 3 volumes when they all come out. But I think, on the other hand, another way to look at it is Shonen Jump saying, well, we know this series flopped. It's probably not going to get that much numbers in the graphic novel sales. Let's try to bump it up by giving it exclusivity in the final volume. Maybe that'll raise the sales. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth seeing something like that happen, because I just think back to plenty of series that canceled that I really enjoyed, and just thinking, man, if they were happening now and they got canceled, would that happen? Would I have to wait to get the final volume to even read what's going on? And another layer to it is they're releasing these simultaneously on the apps like I read on Manga Plus, and those are translated within a few days of release. What does that mean for the audience outside of Japan? Because I even doubt Build King is going to leave Japan for the physical volumes. I just don't see it being that big enough to warrant that. We're basically out of luck for this final chapter unless somebody buys volume 3 of Build King and wants to translate the missing pages. I mean, it's happened with Promised Neverland, but Promised Neverland actually had an audience, whereas here the whole point it's being axed is because it didn't have a big enough audience. So again, really crazy to see something like this happen. Definitely a first on my end. And I really hope we don't see it again. Because if it does happen to other series that I do find interest in, that I want to see how it ends, that's going to really suck. So with that, guys, safe to say it's going to wrap us up today. Thanks for sticking around. Did you keep up with Build King when it dropped? What are your thoughts? Would love to hear some feedback. You can go ahead and send an email to unversepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll talk about that on the next episode. And then you could give us a follow anywhere you go at Unverse Podcast, and we'll let you know when those episodes drop. So thanks, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.